Ms. Greene, what about you? Do you think the Second Amendment right protects the right of private armed militias to operate outside of state or federal control?
I believe the Second Amendment gives the states the right to have a militia, and it did not expand which way that went, but it gives the state that right. And I think it's extremely important. And I just want to clarify, Mr. Raskins, I never said arm every single person. People have the right to keep and bear arms if they choose. And I also feel that, if my children are in school and a madman with a gun comes to a school to kill people, unfortunately, a psychologist is not going to be able to just talk him out of it. That is not a good way to protect kids. But again, we enjoy...
Do you think the students should be armed?
I think children should be trained with firearms. I definitely do. I think that's very important so that they understand the
So they could repel someone who comes in.
That's not what I said. I said I believe children should be trained with firearms so they understand how to use them and understand the safety. But I think that we should allow states to choose how they protect schools. I believe more in state rights and a lot less than federal intervention.
I want to be clear about your position. There are 50 states that now ban private militias on the theory that people don't have a right to take up arms against the government. You agree with that?
Mr. Raskins, I believe we're talking about due process rights. I'm not sure how we're onto this about private...
We're talking about the Second Amendment.
Yes, we're talking about the Second Amendment. That's right. I think
you mentioned abortion a moment ago, but if we could stick to guns for a second.
Well, abortion kills babies, innocent. We're talking about kids being killed.
Okay, good.
Abortion kills innocent children.
All right, I got your...
They can't protect themselves at all from this horrific procedure.
Sounds like you want to arm them. But in any event, my question is about militias.
That's impossible, Mr. Raskins.
But I wanted to talk about militias. Do you agree that it's constitutional for the 50 states to ban private militias?
I don't think they should be banned. The federal government isn't protecting our border. We're being invaded every single day by an unknown amount of people coming illegally across our border. I think we're in a time where states have the rights to be able to figure out how to protect their citizens.
Right. So here's what the states have figured out, Ms. Greene. They've figured out that private groups who are armed should not be taking up arms against the government and have no Second Amendment right against the state. So you agree with that?
I think the Second Amendment is clear. It means that we need well-armed citizens. And I believe that's extremely important, Mr. Raskins. And as weird as this body, or the Senate perhaps, is trying to violate the Second Amendment, but yet the Supreme Court just ruled yesterday that Americans need to be able to keep and bear arms, carry them.
Handguns.
Bear them means carry them.
Okay.
Carry them in order to protect themselves.
But I just found something that said, you were quoted as saying in talking to Real America's Voice that whereas January 6th was just a riot at the Capitol, and if you think what our Declaration of Independence says, it says to overthrow tyrants. So do you think that the assault on the Capitol was a legitimate exercise of popular insurrection?
Oh, Mr. Raskins, I know it's early in the morning, but this is the Rules Committee. This isn't your Trump derangement committee that you call the January 6th committee.
My last name doesn't have an S on it, Ms. Greene.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
Mr. Raskin.
Okay, you've been talking about the Second Amendment. You came here to talk to us about the Second Amendment, right?
I'm here to talk about due process rights and protecting Americans' due process rights.
All right. So I just want to be clear. You've been quoted at least as saying that the January 6th riot at the Capitol was in the spirit of the Declaration of Independence, which says you can overthrow tyrants. You've also testified that people have a right to carry guns, presumably wherever they want to go. So it seems to me that lots of people were armed on that day, but the logic of your argument is that everybody could have been armed and brought their weapons with them. And I'll take that as a conclusion.
What evidence do you have that a lot of people were armed that day? Mr. Raskin, do you have that to introduce into the record?
Just wait for it. But when it comes out, presumably you'll be supporting it, right? That they would have a right to have guns and knives with them. Is that right?
Mr. Raskin.
Is that your position?
No, Mr. Raskin.
No, I'm going to ask the questions here because this is the Rules Committee. You're not a member of the Rules Committee, Ms. Greene. Are you? Are you a member of the Rules Committee?
I'm a witness here at the Rules Committee.
Okay, so let me just ask you a question.
That is talking about due process rights, not your lies about January 6th, about President Trump and others.
Okay, I never mentioned him. You've brought him up. All right, I think your position has become clear. You think the Declaration of Independence says overthrow tyrants, that endows the people.
That's
Well, that's
not.
a quote from you.
No, you're twisting words in an article.
Well, tell us, what is your position
I'm
on it?
used to that.
I just ask that we not talk over each other because our court reporter, the stenographer here is having a difficult time.
Mr. Scott, let me just ask you, and then we can close this, because I think I've gotten everything I need to get, but what's your position on it? Do you think the people have a constitutional right or a right under the Declaration of Independence to attack the government with any kind of weapon?
No, and let me clarify. You asked me my opinion on the Second Amendment. Obviously, my opinion is not consistent with recent Supreme Court decisions. The majority of the court is disagreed, and we got to go with what the Supreme Court. We have to respect the court, and they are working out what the individual right is. And they have said in the Heller decision that there are limitations. Yesterday, they indicated that the limitation that New York had was too much. So we're still trying to figure out what the individual right is. As I indicated, I think a plain reading of the Second Amendment is inconsistent with those decisions, but the decisions are what they are. And, you know, our system is the Supreme Court is the law of the land.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Chairman, the Constitution gives Congress the right to regulate, arm, fund, organize, discipline the militias. 50 states have banned private militias. There is no right for people to take up arms against the government, and I think we need to put down this insurrectionist interpretation of the Second Amendment that's out there. Justice Scalia has made it very clear that the Second Amendment permits reasonable regulations in the interest of public safety and public security, and this legislation advances, however modestly, that goal.
In regards to red flag laws, they just won't stop someone when they want to murder someone. And that's just the reality and the great concern. But what they will do is they'll violate people's due process rights. And I think that we all need to recognize the giant political divide in our country. I think we need to recognize that over the past several years, Americans are looking at one another, and they simply may not like someone's political views. They may not like their Trump flag in their yard. They may not like someone else's statements. And this brings this big slippery slope for false accusations to where they could, claim that someone is at a risk of killing others with their guns simply because they hold such political views or may have voted for a candidate for office. And I think this is putting Americans in danger, especially, gun owners, of losing their gun rights because someone is trying to take their guns away simply because they don't like them and may think a gun owner is dangerous when a gun owner is not dangerous. Taking away Americans' gun rights is dangerous.
But one of the things that we heard from the gentlelady from Georgia was that the proper response to children being massacred in school would be more armed guards, and that the way to protect people is to have more armed guards. And several things came to mind. One was that in Buffalo, the shooter, Peyton Gendron, I think his name was confronted by an armed guard who shot him, but he was wearing body armor, and then was able to kill the guard and go on to massacre people in the grocery store. Ms. Greene, do you think the Second Amendment protects body armor too, by the way?
Well, Mr. Raskin, here's what I do believe is I wish that people inside that grocery store had been armed, but the strict gun control where they live took that ability away from them.
I'll reclaim my time. So, Mr. Scott, your state has seen some terrible massacres, like at Virginia Tech. We saw the massacre at Uvalde, where there were lots of police officers around with guns, but they weren't able to stop the madman who got inside with an AR-15, the 18-year-old who got inside with an AR-15 and assassinated those children such that their parents had to offer DNA to make a positive identification. Couldn't even identify them visually. What do you think about this argument that, well, what we need to do, what I understand her to be saying, is that basically everybody should be armed? Is that going to make us safer if we become the only country in the world where our solution to the problem of massacres in public places is to arm everybody?
The evidence I've seen is if you have armed guards in schools, you have no reduction in killings. You do have an increase in school-to-prison pipeline because the police officers there tend to police the children, not protect the children. And so that makes the situation actually worse. I've seen no evidence that school resource officers improve anything. As police officers, if you have an additional counselor in the school, psychologist, things like that, that has been shown to reduce the incidence of violence in the school. And so to the extent that the school resource officers providing the counseling and the psychological services, that's a good thing, but unfortunately they tend to do more of the policing and not more of the counseling. But in terms of a protective, most of the school shootings have occurred at schools that have armed guards. They weren't at that end of the school, or I don't know where the SRO was in Uvalde,